$1 for every time I heard the statement or read the statement or saw the statement. Go with the flow. Not only would I own the Mercedes of my dreams, but I would also have enough money to build a garage for that Mercedes and pay for the insurance, gasoline, and maintenance for the rest of my life. But let me tell you something. The first time I heard it, I remember, this is genius, go with the flow. And it really became like a mantra for me almost, right? Like this idea of trying to internalize this idea of acknowledging that life has its ebbs and flows. It has its smooth patches and its not so smooth patches. And we have to kind of be okay with and be in awareness that it's going to have its smooth and not so smooth patches. And that when it does, our job is to kind of accept and surrender so that we can continue to flow with life. Because otherwise, in the struggle, we get more tangled, right? So here's the thing. I've been hearing this my whole life. I've been trying to practice this. Like I said, it was a mantra for me for a long time. Go with the flow, go with the flow, go with the flow. And then recently, we went water tubing. Let me tell you, child, it brought that statement to a whole other level, to a whole new meaning, because we are in a tube moving down a river that actually has some rapid areas, which we thought it was going to be a lazy river. Psych. There was some parts of even the smooth sailing parts had some current. And then there was some rapid areas that we were not expecting. And we're in a tube, y'all. A tube. Not a raft with life vests and a guide at the helm, a professional. No, a tube. On your own. Good luck and God bless. Hope you make it to the end, right? So we get our tubes. I, of course, had a life vest on, because that's what it is. We get in the tubes and we're heading down the river, right? As we're going down the river, we crash against some rocks because we're trying to stay in control and hold on to everybody. It's not possible, right? In every area of life to hold on to everyone. Lesson 1 from the river. Sometimes you have to let go and then catch up with your crew later on. That's the reality. Then, as we're going down and we crash into the rocks and people are getting flipped off of their tubes, this guy goes by and he says, when you hit the rough patch, just settle in. And then, before you know it, he's gone because he's riding the current. When you hit the rough patch, just settle in. That sounds like acceptance and surrender. Oh, so I turned to my daughter and I said, when it picks up, because we're sitting with our butts in the hole and our legs out one side and we're holding onto the handles and kind of leaning back on the other side, right? When it gets rough, sink in. Because I noticed that when other people would hit a rough patch and they would tense up and push up as if, again, they have control of the river, as if they have control of life, they get tossed out of their protective little tube and they could potentially get smashed against the rocks that are in the river. And I'm not talking about some shabby little rocks. No. These rocks will make Mama Rock proud, right? Like, you will get tossed against the rocks. So we have to settle in. We have no control other than what's right here with us. And when it gets rough, accept, settle in, center yourself, ground yourself, root yourself. And then when you do, you'll be able to go with the flow. Stop it right now. That river was church, okay? That river had a lesson for everybody. Some spiritual and personal growth was happening on that river if people were paying attention. That's all I have to say. So we're riding down the river and we're trying to hold on to everybody else. And then I and one of the other people on our group decide to have this not so genius idea to take our legs and put them down into the river. Did I tell you there were rocks? I did. I mentioned these rocks. So not only did I get dinged up with scratches and bruises, but this other person who did it as well, destroyed the legs. Trying to, again, control the currents of the river and keep everyone near. Sometimes you gotta let go and go with the flow. Sometimes you do. That's just the reality. So eventually we break off from the group. And as we break off, this guy goes by and he's high, he's smoking. And he says, just go with the flow and the river will take you. Everything will be fine. And I'm like, Okay, dude. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, for real. He might be high, but he's speaking some wisdom. Just go with the flow. Let the river take you and everything will be fine. That's the reality of life. Sometimes you hit rough patches, but if you go with the flow, if you get back into your center, if you settle in, right? If you accept what's happening and then control this is the only thing you control is how you're responding, and do that work. So when we hit that next rough patch and it was quite rough, it didn't feel rough. It felt like fun. It felt like adventure. It felt like joy. And then when we got to the smooth sailing part, we were truly able to appreciate the smooth sailing part because we had been practicing the rough parts. And then what happens? We come up on another rough part and we decided that if we need to let go, because we're holding on, but we're holding on loosely. If we need to let go and then find each other later on, that's what we're going to do. Loosely. Let me tell you, that river taught me something. So in the flow of life, on the river of life, this is what I have for you, especially now, especially during a pandemic, especially during a time of change, because we cannot control what is happening. From day to day, information is changing. We cannot control it. The only thing we can control is whether or not we choose to respond by accepting, surrendering, and settling into what we know to be the truth, to what we know to be rooting us, to what we know is going to keep us in a place that feels grounded. Because then as you hit those bumps and as you flow along, you can still allow yourself to find moments of joy and comfort and fun and ease and, dare I say, laughter in the midst of what feels like the bumpy crazy, because everything is temporary. That rough patch is temporary. And then when you hit that smooth sailing again, allow yourself to enjoy that as well, rather than be worried about the next bumpy patch. Settle in. Don't control this. Do the one thing at a time that you can do. One task, one day, one person at a time. That's it. That's it. And go with the flow of life. I highly recommend that everybody get their butt on a river tube to experience it for some enlightenment, some awareness purposes, right? So that's what I have for you. If you know someone who can benefit from it, please share it. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Stop waiting around. And I have nothing but love for you, and there's nothing you can do about that. With great appreciation and constant flow. Peace!